everybody, this is Mrs. Combs. We're going to be talking about key words that represent positive and negative numbers, or also known as integers. So in the previous lesson, you learned how to plot those integers on a number line. But now in words, we need to know if we're referring to a negative or a positive number. So the first example I gave you is a story about Tim and his 13th birthday, talking about how he's depositing money into his bank account. So I'm going to read this out loud. I want you to think about what are some positive words that represent positive integers and what are some negative words that represent negative integers. So the first one. For Tim's 13th birthday, he received $150 in cash from his mom. His dad took him to the bank to open a savings account. Tim gave the cash to the banker to deposit into the account. The banker credited Tim's new account $150 and gave Tim a receipt. 1 week later, Tim deposited another $25 that he had earned as an allowance. The next month, Tim asked his dad for permission to withdraw $35 to buy a new video game. Tim's dad explained that the bank would charge $5 for each withdrawal from the savings account and that each withdrawal and charge results in a debit to the account. So now that I look at this, I have transferred this into a Word document so we can highlight the positive and negative numbers that represent integers. So I'm just going to take it sentence by sentence because sometimes, especially in math, we really have to take things one step at a time. So for Tim's 13th birthday, he received $150 in cash from his mom. The key word in this sentence is you should see received because it's something I'm getting. So this is going to mean a positive integer. Okay? His dad took him to the bank to open a savings account. Now some students in class talked about how open could mean a positive. I'd accept it. But it doesn't really represent an actual integer in the story. Tim gave the cash to the banker to deposit into the account. So the key word here is gave. Gave could be a word here. And also deposit. Those are both positive integers. That means you're getting something. The banker credited Tim's new account $150 and gave Tim a receipt. So in this case, credited means a positive integer. Okay? Credited means that he's getting a certain amount of money or being plus a certain amount of money in his in his account. That would be a positive. Okay? 1 week later, Tim deposited another $25. So that is also, deposited is also a positive number. Now if I have a credit card, that means I'm borrowing money to buy something. So credited is different from using a credit card. That he earned as an allowance. Earned would be a positive integer. The next month, Tim asked his dad for permission to withdraw $35 to buy a new video game. So since I'm taking money out, I'm withdrawing the money, which would be a negative. Tim's dad explained that the bank would charge $5 for each withdrawal from the savings account and that each withdrawal and charge results in a debit to the account. So in this case, withdrawal would be a negative. Withdrawal again, charge, and debit are all words that represent negative integers. The reason we need to know this is because sometimes they're going to be talking to us about integers in sentences without being able to actually tell me if it's a negative or a positive. All right, so now let's go down to our next section. We talked a lot about a thermometer today. Okay, that's a really important part. And thermometer is usually always going to be a vertical number line. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Temperature is commonly measured using one of two scales, Celsius or Fahrenheit. In the United States, the Fahrenheit system continues to be accepted standard form for non-scientific use. All other countries have adopted Celsius as the primary scale in use. The thermometer shows how both scales are related. So as you can see, on the right side of the thermometer is Celsius, and on the left side is Fahrenheit. And they are related, which means that they are pretty much equal at certain points. The boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. Where is 100 degrees Celsius located on the thermometer to the right? It's not, because as you can see, our thermometer only goes up to 50 degrees Celsius. This thermometer is probably used to take a temperature, and if our bodies were at 100 degrees Celsius, our blood would be boiling. On the vertical number line, also known as thermometer, describe the position of the integer that represents 100 degrees Celsius. On a vertical number line, describe the position of the integer. So we're looking for a positive 100 degrees. I want you to remember that positive 100 degrees Celsius is equal to 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and that represents boiling point. Okay, that's a very important temperature to know. Write each temperature as an integer. So the first one we need to know is, what's the temperature in Fahrenheit? As you can see, the thermometer lines up with the 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so we would have 100 degrees. Now write it as Celsius. So if I took that line and went all the way across, I would end up right here. If you look from 30 to 40, there are 5 spaces that represent there, but it represents 10 numbers. So 10 divided by 2, which means there are 2 represent each tick mark. So this would be 32, 34, 36, 38, and 40.
Penelope Brunton, come to the main office, please.
So this means that our integer would be 38 degrees. Okay, 38. Freezing point of water. As you can see, they indicated this on the thermometer, but the freezing point of water is 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. That is very important to know because that is the lowest part. Okay, Celsius is pretty easy because it goes from 0 to 100, whereas Fahrenheit goes from 32 to 212. So those are very specific questions that you need to know, or very specific temperatures. Let's keep going. If someone tells you your body temperature is 98.6, what scale are you using? Well, this has to be Fahrenheit. Okay, this has to be Fahrenheit, because if you were 98.6 degrees Celsius, you'd be very close to the 100 degrees, which means, again, your blood would be boiling. You'd be almost 212 degrees Fahrenheit, which is very, very hot. Does the temperature 0 degrees mean the same thing on both scales? No, because 0 degrees Celsius means freezing point, where 0 degrees Fahrenheit is going to be way less than freezing point on the Fahrenheit scale. Okay, we're going to go into some key words here. Write down each word under the appropriate column. Gain, that's got to be a positive number. Loss, negative. Deposit, positive. Credit, if I get a credit to my account, that's got to be a positive. Some people can argue credit card is negative. Debit, if I use my debit card, it means I'm taking money out. Charge, that's got to be negative. Below 0, that's negative again. Withdraw, that means I'm taking money out. I owe you money, I'm negative. And receive, that's a positive word, that means I'm getting money. Okay, so these are key words that you should have in your notebook to represent positive and negative numbers. All right, let's look at this. Write an integer to represent each of the following situations. The first, a company loses, so that's going to be my keyword, $345,000 in 2011. So we'd be negative 345,000. You earned $25 dog sitting. So I earned it, that means I received it. Jacob owes his dad $5. Owe, that means I'm negative money. The temperature at the sun's surface is about 5,600 degrees. I'm not negative, so I have to be positive. The temperature outside is 4 degrees below zero. The key word is below zero there. A football player lost 10 yards when he was tackled, so it would be negative 10 yards. Okay? So the key takeaways here are, can you represent an integer with using words such as earned, owe, loses? Okay, do you understand if that's a positive or negative number? The second takeaway is, can you read a thermometer with the Fahrenheit and Celsius side? Understanding when there's two sides of a thermometer or two calculations, two units, can you understand which one is which? So that's really important with the vertical number line, because I'm going to go back to this thermometer. It's important to know that there are two sides of this thermometer, and you have to be able to accurately read both sides, both Celsius and Fahrenheit. And also being able to reason, what does 100 degrees Celsius mean versus 100 degrees Fahrenheit? Or what does 0 degrees Celsius mean versus 32 degrees? How does that play out? If I were to ask you to graph negative 20 degrees Celsius, I would hope you would mark here. But if I asked you to mark negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, I would hope you mark down there. So that is really the key here. Hopefully this clears up some misunderstandings you may have had about the thermometer or using keywords. Stay tuned for the next lesson on integers. Have a great night.